your bike is in the car.
Good morning and welcome to Hey, Norma. Norma, you coming on? Okay. Good morning and welcome to Dateline New Haven. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make the Elm City tick. Nothing ticks better than Pundit Friday, which we're about to begin here in the media universe with an exciting reappearance of one of our stalwarts. We have pundits like the dairy-free goddess of our grassroots radio operation, the belle of our ball, the managing editor of the Inner City News.
Buenos dias.
Oh, were you in the debates? Oh, wait. And the host of WNHH's Love Babs program, Babs Rawls Ivy.
Buenos dias, mi amigas and amigos.
Buenos dias. We have the flyest news hunter-gatherer this side of Fleet Street, leader of the literati and the liberated.
The liberated. Yes, I like it.
Free-raging journalist Markeisha Ricks.
Viva la journalism.
Welcome back. Nice to see you.
Nice to be seen.
Viva la Viva la journalism.
Periodically.
Yes.
Repetero. And we have the preordained pastor and prophet of paradise, our DJ deliverance, the filial force of fortuitous fomentation, the ouster of obstinance and ostentation, the savior of civility and hurricane of heavenly homily, conqueror of cannabis commerce and the bright light in the New Haven night.
Right.
The straight shooter from Bermuda, the mystical and metaphorical man on the money, the tackler of tempestuousness and titan of temperance, the banisher of bilious bullies, prince of pleasantries and punctuality. I don't know about that one. The sorcerer of scientific solution and
He's
the
like, I have to
blessed
rethink that.
beatboxer of banksters and bacchanalians for sure.
Yeah.
Joe Ugly. Of the Joe Ugly Show in the morning. Good morning, everyone. I hear we're making references already. Very interesting 2 nights of presidential debates, which I'd like to get to if it's okay with you folks in the second half of this show.
Great.
Because we are in New Haven.
Yes.
And there have been hourly earthquakes in New Haven's political
gosh.
landscape.
What did y'all do to my town while I was gone?
Heads are rolling,
The
and the guard is changing and continuing to change.
New Haven's version of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
So it is now Friday morning, the last Friday in June. This will be repeated over the next few days, and who knows how much is going to change by then, because it changes hourly. But let's just take it where we are now. Top positions, people are changing, people getting thrown out of office. It kind of began this week when we reported that, well, 2 things going on. The FBI, it is now, we all kind of had a sense, but now they have a subpoena for lots and lots and lots of records in City Hall. It's taken them weeks to fulfill the request to give the documents. They're looking into a lot of stuff at the Elderly Services Department. Apparently, according to one person who read the subpoena, it reads directly lifted from Christopher Peake's articles about how they spent the Byrne grant for anti-violence in New Hallville, how the escape didn't get built, and how people were paid. I have not heard any accusation of illegality. They feel that some stuff looks fishy looking into it. They do that kind of thing, but it's more stepped up than just fishing. They definitely have apparently spent months talking to people looking at stuff, and they are now asking for backup documentation. But this obviously had repercussions. We're in a mayoral election year that's very hotly contested. And Jason Bartlett runs the Youth Services Division, in charge of all these programs. And he's been the leader of Mayor Harp's reelection campaigns, including this one. And he's the guy who gets in the mix. He's her guy to take risks, get her in trouble by trying to join the fight when people are trying to cut her knees off, and trying to get her to win. And to be the person on the front lines trying to shake things up to help kids. The USTAT program, after these kids were getting shot, the citywide canvases. Some of the programs worked well, other ones a little tougher. And so they've been wanting Jason Bartlett's head for a long time. The Reverend Kimber publicly called for it after he had a disagreement with Jason Bartlett. And then Unite Here, the union at Yale that runs the Board of Alders, has been calling for Jason's head because he is a political obstacle to them if they want to completely run the city. So when this all happened this week, that was at first Bartlett said, well, I'm stepping down as your campaign chair. But then that night, it got crazier. The Harp campaign sent out the most bizarre press release that had Jason's fingerprints on them that went on attacking the U.S. Attorney's Office. Might be the first time I've seen in New Haven where someone being investigated for corruption goes on a crazy attack on the people investigating them in public. They alleged a conspiracy with Donald Trump, the head of the New Haven Democratic Town Committee, and the wife of Justin Ellicker. They claim that because
I feel like you should have some dastardly music.
Right.
I felt like, I mean, I saw this thing I said when I was like a Twilight Zone episode or something. Because Natalie Ellicker went to work for the U.S. Attorney's Office, of which there are thousands of assistant U.S. attorneys in the country doing routine cases. When Deidre Daley, the Obama pick, was running the office, then Trump took over. There's a new pick. And she, is advised by certain rules there. And then when her husband goes in politics, she has to stay away with anything New Haven, whatever. The HARP campaign accused her of coming up with the idea of investigating the HARP administration so that Donald Trump can get revenge against Toni Harp and get her out of office, and that they did it in collusion with the head of the Democratic Town Committee, Vinnie Morrow, knowing about it and getting it out so that he could stop her from being mayor. No.
I mean, I like the sound of it. You know,
You say you like the sound.
I mean,
of
I like the sound of it because it's well thought out. I mean,
That's true. They can get hired by
do
someone.
you know what I mean? Like, I think it's a good
SX.
story,
Yeah,
but,
that makes a good
but I
story.
think they give people too much credit for this kind of intrigue. This
It's
is
like it's not even that hard.
So after
Like,
that, so by the next day, the call came to Harp, I think, and if you want to get reelected, you don't have much left. You're going to need Unite Here and the Board of Alders. You got to get rid of Bartlett. So he had to go. She didn't even go to the meeting. It was weird. I called in the City Hall, Chief of Staff's office. She wasn't there. And he's gone on leave, paid leave, because, he's being investigated. You can't legally stop paying the guy. So while that's all going on, there's a drama at the Board of Education. For the third time in 3 years, we're going to have Shays and Guns.
There's always drama. At the
So
Board
they've
of
been trying to
Education.
get, the Board of Education hired Carol Burks less than a year ago to be the new head of the board, to shake things up at the schools. Then from day one, try to stop her from doing her job and fighting.
Pretty
And
much.
now on Monday night, as Chris Peak reported on Monday night, the Board of Ed went into an executive session, decided, okay, she's gone. We're going to negotiate her departure now. We voted to do that. Let's get an exit agreement. They're not necessarily firing her, and they didn't set a deadline.
quack, quack, quack,
But
quack,
then
quack.
last night, TV stations reported inaccurately, I think, because I went back and talked to people. They said there's a July 8th deadline and they're firing her. I went back and some people they spoke to and said, no, that's not what we said. We said we'd love to have it done in July. We're going to try to have her exit on a term with
Somebody had to have said something.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
this
just
came
too,
from Mario Boone, who does not always
he's-
check
well,
eyes and
Cutting
cross
Sark
the
is a little
Ts.
different, but
Anyway, so that's
Sorry, I
happening.
died for a second there.
That's happening. And then meanwhile, there's been all this drama over who'll be the next police chief and all this politics.
oh my God, it's too
And
much.
now there's
chief-
an announcement.
Yeah, when
Too
the
much
Independent
politics
reported
for
this
me.
morning that
It's only the beginning of the summer, y'all.
No.
Like, I'm already tired.
so there was all this fighting and people before you make the pick, everyone acts like it's the end of the world, just like in a political campaign that, the person I want is great. And if you pick the other person, everything's going to go to hell and it's evil. So then finally, and the mayor didn't pick for weeks because it was so political and getting so much pressure on all sides. She finally made the pick. And I think what I was hearing from people this morning, I made a point talking to people who were not for her pick, which is Otanio Reyes. And they were saying, okay, he was picked. He's been running the
Let's
department.
go.
All right,
Let's go. Let's work
move
together.
on.
Let's make
He's
it
not
happen.
I
Done.
think he's a good pick.
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
smart.
pick. And he's
He's
been running the
well-liked.
department.
And
Yeah.
he's already had like a really big, high profile, like national level testing of his ability to lead when the pressure's on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And she decided to go. She said, look, for all the drama in New Haven, we have the lowest violent crime we've had in decades. And she's going, and everyone's leaving, but people haven't left. The crew, she's going to stick with that crew.
Marquisha and I are going to be cops in a minute.
I think you might be, actually, I think you might be assistant chief. Because if you've been in New Haven more than 5 minutes, you got the most experience
Well,
left in that
I
department.
think you might be right.
if I get a minute for every year, I'm there.
So what do you make of all this? What's going on?
I think changes in the. I mean, I think people are dissatisfied with their own inability to be able to exact change. I think what's happening at the Board of Education. I think the Board of Education is the problem, but I think Board of Educations across this country are the problem. It's not. I'm not personally trying to attack them. I'm just saying boards of education across this country are problematic because I think so many people who are on these boards are woefully unprepared to run these boards. They don't come with experience on how to do board work. They don't come with experience on how to deal with teacher, parent, teacher, student, teacher,
But they love the
community
power.
relationships.
Yeah.
But they
going there
like
for
the power. And so,
And I think they also don't come with the real good management skills. Like, what do they expect of a superintendent, and how do
Yes.
they actually let the superintendent do
Yes.
their job? Because everywhere you go, the superintendent job is a kind of a political job that isn't really so much about educating kids and more so about managing a board that is just has its priorities all over everywhere.
I think there's
and that's true everywhere.
I think there's some hope in New Haven. The last 2 picks on the Board of Ed, I think, are roundly considered quite good picks. And I think that the president of the board, Darnell Goldson, in the last few weeks, I don't know, I've kind of seen him stepping up. I think he's trying to be a little more responsible, constructive.
But that's real cute. If 3 people on the board, the whole board needs to function.
He doesn't know how to run a board.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to run the board. He does not understand the rules and regulations of running the board. Now he can probably cut and paste up whatever the board is supposed to do, but the actual running of a board, the logistics of running a board, he is not competent.
So what happens next? They ran out one superintendent, then we had a temporary person, then we had this whole drama about picking a new one who nobody wanted except for the Reverend Kimber. She gets in, everyone kills her from day one, whether or not you like her. She's out. She's going to be cost a lot of money to get rid of her. It's still costing us money to get rid of the guy before her. What do we do next for now?
They're going to keep doing this until they fully understand what it is that they want a superintendent to do and get out of their way.
Or, I don't know about Connecticut, but I know in other places, if they don't get it together, at some point the state steps in. So I don't know. I'm not saying that should happen, and I wouldn't want that to happen. I'd want our city to fix our own problems. But, like, when you start to be dysfunctional enough where it looks like nobody's running the school system, or if your budget is so out of whack that you're paying out money, but it's not actually going to the education of kids, somebody has to crack down.
Yeah.
I felt
and
so
it
bad
might
for
crack
Carl
down
Burks.
from outside.
And again, I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm not like a fan of her, not a fan of her. When I saw that picture Chris Peak took
Chris is taking
at the
some
meeting,
amazing photos that just capture
people spent
the spirit.
hours just dumping on her.
Yeah.
Even how she looks. Like how she dresses. Not that she dresses bad.
People were not kind.
People were just mean.
Oh no, people.
But they were prepared to be mean though. Like I think because they didn't want her from the start.
They didn't want her from the start.
They didn't want her from the start. So they're like, we're just going to keep this up until we get rid of her.
And the mayor and the people who
successful.
brung her didn't stand by her.
No, well, see, that's what politics is. That's what this is the dirty part of politics that I like. Now, this is what pissed me off about Toni Harp. She was prepared and always prepared to throw somebody in the bus for her own gain, which is fine. That's what politics is, But I think she could have extended a longer hand and a longer branch to Carol, and Carol could have done the same. I think both of them had a lot of miscommunication about what should happen.
See, I think Carol was hired to get contracts of Friends of Bovey Kimber. I think that's why she got the job. And that's a bad reason to pick. She's very, my intel on her is she's a very capable, experienced person. Whether or not this is the right job for her, whether it was what New Haven wanted. But I don't think we made this decision. And then having it be a public decision like a political campaign where she didn't have those skills.
I just wish that there was a better way that they could have come together around some of these issues. Because I think the mayor threw under the bus early. I think Carol, Dr. Burks, is not politically savvy enough to understand the machinations of political play. And I think a lot of people around her did her in too. I think she had a lot of people who had knives at her back
it was doomed
in
from
her
the start.
own office.
Yeah.
So I don't think she could have
she did
won
some knifing,
anybody
too.
over
Yeah.
at any point at any time because she never got the golden
Chance.
crown.
They didn't let her on the joint.
Yeah, they didn't.
So
they
now,
didn't let her in.
Markeisha and Babs, you kind of leapfrog and gave us the long-term vision of what needs to change New Haven, which is really important, which is what I usually ask you second. I'm wondering short-term now.
Ugh.
I want to throw out an idea, see what you think.
Nope, I can't go over there and run that.
Babs, come on.
It's like I cannot rave my
It comes
magic
with an
Bab wand
apartment.
and
It comes
fix
with
it.
the penthouse apartment, the Alexian building.
Wait a
All right.
minute.
All right, no,
It's like I am looking.
So here's what I'm thinking. I want to see what Joe thinks about this too, and Harry. So in the short term, I believe that because of the dysfunction with that board, 2 separate people come in, get run out, everyone's fighting. I don't believe you're going to get a credible national candidate who would be good to run the department and willing to apply.
Who would step into that?
And it's costing us too much to pay these settlements. So here's my view for the short term. We don't know who's going to be the next mayor. We don't know how we're going to fix these education problems. We have serious decisions to make. I would argue that for the medium term, we pick someone who has been a number 2 or 3 in the schools department, who has decades just making day-to-day decisions in the New Haven public schools. Make sure the buses run. Make sure people get paid. Make sure we're meeting state rules. And just dial down the drama. Have someone who's familiar, lower ego, just run the place for a while, and I'll throw out some names. I don't have a dog in that fight, but I would argue that we just dial it down for a while, keep the schools running so they don't have any problems for a while, and defer for now. Because we brought in Harry's and then Burke saying, shake this up, fix stuff, big changes.
Clearly, we'd like it to stop shaking.
For now, let's do kind of what we did in the police department. Although that's a little different because we have someone who rose to the ranks and is excited at 47 years old to kind of take it another level. Let's get steady hand for a while, like when Mel Waring came after the Pastor scandal in New Haven Police and just kind of ran stuff for a while after a period of politics and drama. Any thoughts on that, Joe, Harry, Markeisha?
The way I look at it is on the Board of Ed here in the city of New Haven, it seems as if you did not come up through the ranks in the city. You're going to catch a lot of work coming from outside. That's just the way it is.
So you're with me on that.
I'm with you 100%. That's where I was going to go with it, but then you
because sometimes you want something from the outside to shake things up. I don't think that's the moment now because you're not going to get anyone good anyway.
I think Reggie Mayer was the only one who was there. That you didn't hear the constant what we hear. But I remember John Dow was there before when Joe Tarazi, who came up in the ranks here in New Haven. Yeah. You didn't have all of this. But as long as it's someone outside of the city, you're going to get this. So like in the sake of stability, and again, I'm always thinking what's best for the kids.
Right. How about you?
Stability is something that I think that will work great for the kids. So yes.
Babs?
I mean, I think that's a good plan. I think that's what's needed. I think you're right. Nobody's going to come into this mess of snake pit and try to do anything good
and even if they
uproot their life from someplace to come here to deal with this foolishness.
And even if they do, they're going to come in, look at the record and say, I got to be so cautious. I don't know what it is. And they're not going to be able to
be here 3 years and I'm out.
Oh, yeah, 3 years. Exactly. 3 and done.
I have a question. Haven't there been a wave of retirements coming through the New Haven school system? Some at very high levels of people we would expect to play that number 2-3 role.
But would they be willing to hold on?
Like who?
I can't think of anybody, but I know
of teachers and administrators.
There was a woman an administrator who just.
Yeah, Ivor Lee's just left.
So who's left?
Well, I'm going to throw some names out.
Okay,
let me
see what you guys think. I honestly,
but is it because somebody retired?
I'm thinking of somebody. But
oh no, they always come back.
I mean, they can, but maybe they don't want to.
I like what I think. Harp had a good idea in the police department saying someone's there running the joint.
Yeah,
don't even bring someone back. You know, we got challenged. So I think there are a few second level people who really have a lot of experience there, and they have different strengths and weaknesses. So let me just throw it out, see what you think. So we have agreement. You should go inside for now. Low drama.
Yeah.
Okay. Some names that pop up a lot. Eileen Tracy.
That's what I was
Did
thinking.
a very good job at Jackie Robinson. Now she's upstairs, has made that transition. She's kind of, I would argue she's the safe choice because she's not someone who mixes it up, right? She's responsible and qualified. She's not someone who's going to shake everything up and also make a lot of enemies. But she'll kind of run the stuff, right?
Oh, is it?
The second name is Dolores Garcia Blocker, who I thought had a shot last time. She was she had applied last time. She's a little more. I try to shake it. I try to move the needle. I hear from some people who said I didn't get along with her, but I respect her. I thought it was a good job. She ran co-op. I think she's someone got to be considered. And the outline I'm starting to hear, who's very interesting, is Kermit Carolina. So now Kermit had the problem when he was Hill House principal. Now when he was House principal, he had the problem about the scandal about the kid's transcript, the athlete, and Ed Joyner, who's on the board of Ed, will be his sworn enemy to death because Kermit mixed it up with his wife, because his wife was the whistleblower. But separate from him, Kermit Carolina is the one who really has the connection with young people.
I actually like the Kermit thing.
Yeah, Kermit is always. So if Kermit came in, Kermit would be a little riskier because there'd be a little controversy with Joyner.
Yeah,
and
I like that.
He doesn't have as many years.
There's no dueling.
He doesn't have. He doesn't have
maybe not at Gulf Street Park.
He doesn't have many years, like as many years running things as Garcia Blocker and Tracy. He does have that kind of. He gets people excited about stuff, right? So he's very good at connecting with young people. Very good at bringing energy.
He might have that kind of community level support.
When the boy was shot to death in New Hall for the 14th last year, it was Kermit they all called on, who was like with school people, community people, how we're going to connect.
Does he have a doctorate?
I don't know.
It's interesting.
I personally don't care, but yeah, I don't know.
You know what's interesting?
People don't care.
But if you're acting, you can be like applying, right?
My thing with Kermit Carolina that I really admire is how he gets so in with the kids. Like he would jump out of his car and if he sees something going on with kids and just go. And I guess that is the kind of leadership that you're looking for right now.
I'm not averse to it.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think of the three?
I think he's learned a few things from the last little hot dust up. I think he's learned some things from the last dust up, and I think it would serve him well. And
what do you think of the other two?
I think a safe choice is probably a good choice at this point.
Yeah.
Well, he wouldn't be a safe.
No, not him.
But he wouldn't be unsafe. I mean, Caroline is a very respected
Garcia
person.
Blocker.
Yeah.
I think they all have the chops to do it in some
and the
way
criticism won't be there from the outside.
No,
exactly.
so
that criticism was shut up.
Right.
I mean, now if some new criticism comes up and people get dust up, then I will absolutely, without any doubt, know that this Board of Education and the people who go to these meetings are just crazy.
So if we left anyone on the list, do you think those three are the most likely people if you go inside? And if so, do you have a pick?
That's all. Those are the only names I can remember that are still around.
I mean, I guess I would pick Kermit because I know Kermit, but I think that the middle choice would probably be
because she's like somewhere between the both.
She would
of
be
them.
between the both for me, and I like somebody who. I don't like to play the safe card all the time.
Right.
Yeah. And she might be able to pivot. But I think Dr. Tracy also is really talented. I think she has a lot of respect for people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that
it's
matters.
Not a bad
she's
choice.
not political
actually
either,
have.
But hold it, she's not political enough.
But again, we're not saying she's going to do the job forever. She's someone to help transition and keep things because we're at it as much as it's the summer, school season is literally
and teachers have got to be hired and contracts negotiated and stuff put in place.
So she'd be a transition figure. Kermit's young.
Yeah, he might actually want it for real. And he might want it permanently.
No, where's the sister who was running Bassett and went to Bridgeport and has left Bridgeport?
I bring her back.
Where is she?
Isn't she in
now
Bridgeport?
we're back to the bridge. Now we're back to the bring back.
But she was here.
She was here, and we lost her.
I understand, but we're on the bring back.
If she has left Bridgeport.
Did she leave Bridgeport?
Yeah, she left. I was in the paper. She left Bridgeport.
Where is she now?
After what? 1 year?
I don't know where she is. So.
After 1 year.
But to come into a volatile situation right now where all
what's her name?
fighting.
Janet Clayton.
Brown.
Yes, Janet Clayton Brown. So I mean,
do you think it would make sense right now to bring someone into a volatile mix in the short term?
No.
No.
But she's in my mind. Like she's on my mind.
But just for the record, Baz, Marquise, and Joe are not available.
No,
totally
because they're here on Pundit Friday, which you're listening to.
How do you say no in Spanish? Nada.
No. It's still no.
But yes, we're on Pundit Friday at 103.5 FM, live streamed at newhavenindependent.org at your home for community radio, talking about all the craziness in New Haven this week. So how are you thinking about, this is looking from the ears race, how do you explain the moves that the Harp administration made this week with, they hadn't told people about the subpoena for 2.5 weeks. We confirmed it on Tuesday and reported. A lot of people feel like, why didn't you tell us sooner? Harsh people are saying they're really downplaying it, and I wonder if there's a little bit of not accepting reality. They correctly point out that no one's been personally accused of a crime. However, they're downplaying the fact that this all focused on Jason Bartlett.
Right.
They're downplaying the fact, they're saying it's just like a freedom of information request. It's not like a freedom of information request when the U.S. Attorney and the FBI have been looking at something for months, talking to a lot of people, and then give you a huge request for specific documents.
What do you expect them to do? They got to downplay this.
They can't be like, what?
They can't hang a banner from City Hall talking about, look,
we're being investigated by the FBI.
Actually, people have done that.
Who?
Governments. I remember DeStefano, they say this is what they're asking for. This is why we think there's nothing wrong, and this is why we're cooperating. But what do you think about them going a day later and accusing an assistant U.S. attorney of a conspiracy with your town share and your
Okay, this
I
is
tell
what
you,
I'm
I like
say.
the story.
You know, I gotta tell you,
I think it's useful, but
no, it's not useful. But I like the story.
In our community, we know that story could ring true.
Yeah, well,
you know, come on, stop playing. In our community,
theories.
Oh, absolutely. You can say conspiracy theories. You know what they used to call conspiracy theories? When we say cops are shooting us for nothing. Until those cameras start coming out, that's when they start saying, "Oh,
yeah,
maybe it is true," because it was all.
So, Joe, do you think it's accurate? Are you saying that they did
it
because it'll ring true to people because they're biases? Or are you saying there's something to it? You think that Natalie Elliker called up Donald Trump and said, "Let's get rid of him," and hey, Vinnie Morrow town chair, let's get the word out.
You know that woman has little children at her hip, right?
Really?
I've seen her with these little babies.
It's like I'm not running around saying that, but
here's
what I am
going to say.
Here's what I am going to say.
Service.
And
a babysitter.
I'm going to be very vocal about this here. I was out last Friday night with a few friends, and one of the individuals, we just happened to mention the mayor's name, you know, this election, and this individual is new in town, and asked, "Isn't she corrupt?"
Wow.
Isn't her administration? I'm like, where did you get that from? It's talking with people here in town. And I got to say this real quick. And I know I've heard some other people asking the same doggone question. Isn't she corrupt? Stop it.
What's with the gossip? Wait,
because
I do want to give to Harry. I just want to say one thing. This is the fact you have to say. There has never been an allegation.
Thank you.
That Toni Harp has broken any law.
Thank you.
She is not remotely corrupt. But when you run a city, there could be corruption.
People around her who have been doing stuff,
and
that's on them. I don't want this woman to have this lay now. You can say whatever you want to. Look,
I'll go on a limb and say that I've never seen anything that Jason Bartlett has done that's been corrupt.
Okay.
But there's sloppiness.
But there are people who have been taken out in handcuffs. We address that.
And that happens with anyone. No matter how honest you are, you can have corruption in your administration.
Exactly.
I'm not saying there is. I'm just saying there could be.
Well, I think the timing of this is quite interesting.
It's just an investigation. It doesn't mean corruption, right?
I'm not going down that path with you.
I'll pause with,
I'm not going down that path with you because I would tell you there's a whole Mueller report that shows where you're going with this.
And here we go. This is what you went exactly there. And that's actually should give Toni Harp hope, right?
What?
That the Democrats,
there was a whole report that said totally different from your guys.
Did a phony
Harry,
report.
are you kidding me? Don't try that. Don't even try to mix
Toni
that
Harp,
into
first
here.
off,
Are you kidding me?
Trump doesn't trust the
Feels
FBI.
like family.
So he wouldn't
He
send
doesn't
them
trust
over
the
here.
FBI, and he's the head of the FBI.
Right. He doesn't trust the FBI, so he wouldn't send them here. That's one thing.
Feliz Navidad.
And the only reason
and Toni Harp shouldn't trust them either. Because you got 3 years of you guys saying collusion, and there's no collusion.
Marquisha, did you miss this?
There are those who would say that, the FBI don't get political.
By the way,
there are those who say
by the way,
hi
Marquisha.
Hi
Marquisha, welcome back.
But guess what?
Thank you.
They do. And
Gracias.
There are those who would say the FBI don't get political, but they do. I mean, let's look at what James Comey did to Hillary Clinton. Dropping that letter. That was all political. And why did he do it? Because they thought she was going to win. And like I
actually
said,
think I can't imagine any scenario in which any member of the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Haven said anything about let's help Donald Trump get back.
I can't imagine that either.
I will say that federal prosecutors do overreach sometimes. Babs and I were talking about this. They decided Marion Barry was corrupt,
right?
Which I think he was, but they had no evidence of it. So they get some woman to lure him to have sex and put a crack pipe in his mouth and arrest him for crack.
No evidence of it. So then we just go on these beliefs that he's corrupt.
No, they found evidence later about contracts that were paid, all that kind of stuff. And he was doing a lot of crack, but which it should have been relevant. But to put the crack pipe in his mouth with a lure of sex,
right?
To try that was one of the most evil examples of overreach.
I like the story. I just think we're giving credit. It's too much credit given for this town. I don't think.
No, I just say that.
I just think it's a.
What are you saying? We got a bunch of goobers in here? No.
I think it's just.
I'm not going to say that.
No,
either.
I think it's a ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing to try to say.
I just don't want her running around with this.
I love the concept of it for a drama or a telenova or something.
Hey, last question on it. Last question, just before we move on. If you were being investigated by the FBI,
I'm sorry,
and
I have
attorney,
been.
right? If you let's say you're being investigated and you know this.
When I was,
would you react by publicly attacking the agency with a made-up story?
No.
I mean, Trump does it all the time. I mean, like anyone else would do that.
Yeah. No. And this is my
because they're
the
mad.
way I live by. Because I know people have to lawyer up and do these types of things, but my motto is if there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to hide.
Exactly. And this is what I want. I just want this whole thing just to play out. And this, you know what I don't like is sitting with someone at dinner. It's when I sit at dinner with someone and hear that this woman is being called, corrupt and a crook.
But here's where people will make room for that, right? If there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to hide. So as journalists, we have boxed with the Harp administration on a number of occasions for documents. Mm-hmm. And it's always a back and forth. Like, it really shouldn't have to get to the point where you file a freedom of information, like, just separately. Right. Like, if it's a public document, it doesn't belong to you.
Right.
So if somebody asks for it, give it to them.
For what it's worth.
And you can explain it.
They're better than most.
They are better than most. I will say that.
But government's government.
But government is government. Government is going to government. But what I tell government officials a lot is that if there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to hide.
And
I have friends all over the country who are battling with public figures over, but like people who work for her battle us over documents, and you're like, but your own boss said, give us the document.
And I think
so
what
that
happens
also is to the point of there can be something happening, that the mayor has absolutely like no hand in, no idea about, because it's not, like she's trusting her people to do their job.
But she did open the door at the Board of Ed.
I will defend that part of it, having worked in government and have been elected to office. I don't think people do. I think people feel like, let me try to figure out all this from every angle before I turn over something. Let me figure out how I need to respond. Should this go whatever way this goes? And yes, I believe that you should just give up the documents. But I also understand that people are fiercely guarded and protective of what, you know, nobody wants to have on their watch, you know, the one that sinks the ship. So you have this, like, let me stall, or let me take the time I need to figure out
what it is you really.
The more I'm thinking of it, I'm trying to think where you're coming from, because, like, I've had a good experience with them. I mean, I fight like hell, and I get really mad when I don't get what I want when I want. I'm a reporter, feels like, you know, I should get what I want now. This is for the people. But in truth, they've been very good to negotiate.
That's what I mean.
With.
I don't think they're deliberately like, oh, we don't. Well, maybe they are, but
you should have seen the DeStefano administration.
Well, I understand.
But this kind of conversation bothers me, though, because as reporters, when some people are better than most, we're like, oh, well, there's, you know, maybe I shouldn't be, like, feel any type of way about it. Better than most just means you can get better. Like, wouldn't it be amazing an administration that says, you know what, I actually am not going to stall. Like, I'm not, like, because if it's climate, if it's not illegal, if it's not something that the law says I can't show you, and I have the capability and all the wherewithal of how to explain it to you, like, you're assuming that the press, because that we're gonna go out and do something nefarious with the document.
But the press has been notorious, just because y'all are better pressed than most.
But it cuts both ways, is what you're saying.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The point that I'm making is I understand both sides. And that there's truth on both sides. I understand the side from being on the legislative side and trying to understand the landscape of giving away documents so that you know what's coming your way, and trying to be preemptive about that. But I also have been on the journalistic side too, where I want these damn documents. I need to know what's happening. I need to da-da-da. So I get it. I get it on both sides, and I think both sides are right.
Right, but when you know people are out to get you, you always make it harder for them. You know, you don't. So I wouldn't give you, if I'm the Hart administration and you want stuff, I'm gonna wait for the court to tell me to give it to you.
That's cute,
Trump. You know.
But here's the thing: people
and also,
are filling that space.
Apologize to
people
Tony
are filling that
for
space
having Marion Barry and crack in the same
corruption. They're filling that space with your administration is corrupt, and the press isn't even doing it. The press isn't what's doing it. We're asking for the information so we can tell your truth.
Yeah.
But there are people in the interim filling in the gaps. You have your opponents who have things to say. Oh, she should have released this. That's exactly what happened with that statement about this whole Trump foolishness.
Well,
like, you gave him the opportunity to fill in that space, and then you filled it in with something crazy.
I mean, I think you're true because you're a good journalist, but the world's not full of good journalists.
That's true.
So but I can't tell you how much I disagree based on my experience, respectfully, with Harry. I can't tell you how wrong I think he is strategically, because I watched it over the years. Every time if they think you're out to get you so you don't release stuff, it makes you look like you have something to hide.
Oh, yeah.
And the story becomes, well, you know, I'll give you an example. When I used to fight with the Stephen administration over these slush funds run by their development administrator, they wouldn't release it. So for months, the story became how they wouldn't release it. But that same administrator who I liked a lot, he told me how when the register guy came, so we found the stuff and it was bad, but there were 20 bad stories instead of one day that you move on from. And usually it's not a bad story. Usually your efforts to hide it make you look sleazier. But he told me about one day when a register reporter was mad that we have an advocate who found out dirt on him. He said, so I brought the guy in and he pointed to his walls. This is Mr. Mercati. He pointed to the walls where he had over 1,000 file folders. He said, I'll give you every story. I won't say the reporter's name. I'll give you every story. Look at, go on the wall. I'm here in my office. I got nothing to hide. And he said, you can take down any folder from my office right now. Now, we're not that smart. We need someone to whisper in her ear and say, you need that one folder out of 3,000. And that guy was done. That reporter did not visit again. He did not write another story. But our stories that were on Pundit Friday at 103.5 FM. Weinstein, we haven't been at. And while New Haven is the center of the universe, the most important, craziest place we know.
Yes.
Tens of millions of people combined over the last 2 nights have been watching the people running for president as Democrats. And it was a really interesting exercise, and I really wonder what people think. I have a very strong opinion about what the outcome was. It was a fun 2 nights where 10 different candidates a night over 2 nights. really in a format that enabled them to actually say some stuff and show you what they're about to see who's going to emerge. What was your guys' takeaway about what happened over those 2 nights and what's going to happen next?
Kamala.
I mean,
Man,
I
did she
think,
put in
I mean,
work or what?
I think, first of all, I think
My God.
debate is the wrong name to call this. I think this is more of a pageant, right? So I think it's a pageant / speed dating. So you get
speed dating.
So you got like a few seconds to prove to me that I want to ask you out again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Although
so-
the key moment was when it did turn
Even
into
though
a
you had
debate.
to date some people you didn't actually like.
Yeah, no.
I agree so
He's
much.
like, you
with
would not be invited to my speed dating event.
No.
I agree with you that that's what it was about. But there was a moment each night when an actual debate happened, when two candidates who have very different ideas about important issues went back and forth in each other. And it was
Julian.
illuminating. Like you had Gabbard go after Ryan. Ryan says, when I'm president, we should have troops in Afghanistan the whole time because you have to keep your commitment. Gabbard said, we've been doing that for decades and no one's safer. Everyone's getting killed and other countries tried it. He said, yeah, but the Taliban went after us in 9/11. She said, no, they didn't.
She said, no,
Al-Qaeda
that was
did.
Al-Qaeda.
That was illuminating. And then last night, of course, I
'Cause he
thought
was
everyone
stupid.
I think the whole country's talking about the slapdown with Kamala Harris and
And
Joe
Biden.
Biden. And again, what was interesting to me about that was actually a debate about a really important issue. Which was states' rights.
Yep.
So Joe Biden being questioned, and everyone I think has got it wrong about how he said nice things about Southern senators. That's not what really happened. He had a working relationship with the most racist senators in the U.S. where he agreed with them. With Jesse Hellman and Sean Thurman and Eastland said he agrees with us on busing, he agrees with us on locking up a lot of black people who commit crimes, and he's going to help us do that. That's the issue. So Kamala Harris called him out as the only African American on stage. And what was interesting to me about the back and forth is the defense Biden used. Biden used an argument that segregationists used in 1968, and that even by the 1950s, half of the Republican Party was no longer using. Dwight D. Eisenhower sent the National Guard to Little Rock because he said that sometimes there are federal constitutional rights, including on race, that when states don't uphold them, you have to step in. So now, that was in 1950s and 60s. 40 years later, where that question's been settled. 50s. You had on stage a guy wanting to be the presidential nominee of the Democratic Party telling Kamala Harris, and there are arguments about busing you can make. Samuel T. Ross Lee made it 2 days ago. Black kids don't next to be white kids to learn. Fine. But he didn't choose that argument. He chose the Jesse Helms argument. He kept yelling back at her states' rights. She said, I rode the bus. Because it took 20 years after Brown versus Board of Education Supreme Court decision for a bus to come take me to another school. And we can argue about that. But she said, the federal government had to step in because the local government do it. His response continually was, it's up to the local government, that the states have the rights. The federal government shouldn't tell you what to do. And she came back with a history lesson. She said, whether it's school desegregation, whether it's civil rights, whether it's women's rights, ERA, whether it's lesbian gay rights, there are certain rights where the federal government steps in when states defy the Constitution and people's rights.
I mean, I expect
that was a
her to
very interesting exchange.
She's not Flavor Flav. She comes Flavor Flav. She's not Flavor Flav. She's not up there shucking and jiving. And
she's like, and I know the law.
Listen, she is a founding member of a chapter of
Alpha Kappa
Alpha Kappa Alpha on Howard University's campus.
Right, that can't be right.
I mean, not Howard. Wherever she and
she pledged Alpha chapter though.
Yes, wherever she pledged with
either way.
This is really interesting.
With Attorney General.
But the woman knows her
the Attorney
history.
General's wife. She was with her.
She found my woman chapter.
And so she's smart and she's savvy and she knows how to play.
And she also like died in that Howard Wool of what civil rights and fighting for it looks like in like through the law. So like
a lot of civil rights people don't like her because of her record. A lot of people don't like her because of her record
and
as
that's
a prosecutor.
fine, but just what you enumerated there, like
you know what? And that was my first. You know, that gave me a lot of pause about her as an attorney general and locking up truant. You know, hauling people to jail for truancy and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that gave me a lot of pause. And I think, but you know what? But everybody's gonna have something that I'm gonna have to figure out to get around.
Exactly. No one is gonna have something.
No one is gonna be pristine, right?
Right. Exactly.
And that's ridiculous to even. I mean, even Cinderella had her issues.
I guess it's how you defend it.
And I was gonna say to your
about
point
Biden.
though, like I think
that's
it's a very important distinction because we talk about like this whole kind of make America great, taking our country back type of commentary. And it's along those same lines. And we give liberals a pass on whether or not they don't do that same type of thing,
Correct.
particularly white liberals,
Correct.
in knowing how civil rights works, who's affected, who's actually
But
oppressed,
how can
and
Biden
that they
run?
can also, because he's a white man.
But
He's
after last night,
He's a white man with money, and he appeals to a certain class of white guy that votes. Like, he is, in his own way, this is why he competes so well against Trump, because they really are the same guy, just different sides of the coin. Like they're cut from that kind of cloth. And so, like, just because one is considered a liberal, like, you know, people are like, oh, he's the guy that can beat Trump. Yeah, because they're kind of the same guy in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, and it takes some black women to point out, like, are you kidding?
Right.
Like, I would still be in like segregated schools, like if you were president.
Right.
And it's like I don't understand how somebody like that.
And she called him when she told him that
a guy
Barack
like that
Obama wouldn't have been able to choose
it
him.
isn't going to occur to him that he can say something like that and be wrong.
My favorite thing is how she introduced it. So again, I'm not black, so tell me if I'm wrong here. My understanding is that if a black person wants to talk about racism and be heard by a white person, you have to reassure him at first that you're not calling him racist, even if you really are. And you have to act like you're not angry. Which is how
that's the way the hell we walk the planet every damn day with white people.
So she starts out ready to eviscerate Joe Biden
like,
and expose him as a racist.
I have to get in the elevator and make sure that you're not afraid of me.
She's going to expose him as a racist.
And you could be a total white, like,
and this is why I think
white
she's for real. This is why I think she could win. Because she understood that if she's going to expose him as a racist, devastatingly, her first line tactically has to be, you're not racist.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. But you know, you highlighted the exchange on the first night between about the Iran about yes, exactly, about the whole war situation. I thought the biggest moment of that was when that night was when Julian Castro came out and he went after Beto and was talking about what he voted on, and you know, trying to protect the dreamers and that stuff. I thought the way he got into it and then chopped it up and told him, hey, if you had done your homework, you would have known that is already a protected
But
corner.
Beto spoke Spanish, so
again, I'm going to repeat myself that I said in 2016. In 2016, I said. In 2016, I said that Hillary Clinton should have picked Julian Castro.
I know.
She should have picked and she didn't pick Julian Castro, and look at the result. And I always say it's okay. Well, it's one thing to pick someone who could speak Spanish versus someone who
is Spanish. I know, but you know, and I want to go back to Biden because my favorite part of his defense of what he did was the way he ended it. He said, "My time's up."
I knew you were going there. I knew you were going there.
I'm ready to stop talking.
But separate from the merits of Biden's argument, which obviously he was 50 years old in history, how he strategically was running for president, being so unprepared to answer the questions, and then the rest of the night was Biden.
Because he had that privilege mentality.
And the rest of the night,
that's it right there. He's like, but I should be president.
He was the old man who the rest of the night kept talking about his accomplishments.
All this other stuff doesn't matter. Elizabeth Warren and all her good policy.
So
you need a white guy to be president.
So am I right that after
you need a white guy to move this white guy, and he's better be old like me.
That's my platform.
You know. So after 20 people spoke in front of 10 millions of people for 2 nights, am I right? Because you know this doesn't usually happen. I had my own views watching because I have biases. I love Elizabeth Warren. She said about the healthcare industry.
You know what? She's winning for me.
But so anyway, am I right that? But then I watch critics on the left and right, conventional and all. There seems to be a complete consensus, which I'd never seen before, that after 20 people went on stage, and a lot of them are very smart, a lot of them are accomplished people. You can say a lot of good things about these people, a lot of them. But at the end, it really seemed that it was so clear that Castro, Warren, and Harris are the only people left standing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those everybody else.
Those are the people I would invite back for the second date.
Yes, everybody else gotta go home.
Mayor Pete may fit in there.
No. And my dark horses would be Cory Booker and New York Mayor, because I think
he has too many problems off
the
stage.
But listen, this is what I heard Miss Occasion on Colbert's show, and she said, you know, I'm a New Yorker, and I didn't realize how New York I was until I went to Iowa, and they were like, whoa, dial it back. So she's like, so we just feel like with that New York
Can't
owes,
never count
New
a New
York
Yorker
owes
out.
the rest of the country a better New Yorker.
Oh.
Do you think? Can you imagine? Now, I think Donald Trump's in a very good
That's pretty
position
funny,
for
Raz.
re-election. I think there's a really good chance to get reelected. But can you imagine him running against a ticket of Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren?
Wouldn't work.
Two of the toughest, smartest women
I
who
like
know
it.
how to win.
I think Harris Castro.
That could be two. But
That's
saying,
what I'm looking
but
at.
I see
No,
two
I
women.
like Warren. I like that Warren Harris
Or
ticket
Harris
or
Warren.
Harris Warren. I don't give a damn.
Go
They
all
could tag
in.
team. They could say
And then
6 months
switch
I'll
up.
be president.
8 years
and
later,
6
switch
months
up,
I'll be.
yeah.
See, I
However
think-
they
Just
do.
high five. I'm
I
next.
think with
I got
Warren,
next. Whoever it is.
With Warren, it doesn't really matter president, vice president, treasury. If she's in there with Consumer Fraud Protection
Yeah, we're
Bureau,
in good shape.
these predatory lenders are in trouble.
Oh,
Maybe
but-
she's
On
some
the
white woman.
run.
Maybe she's the only white woman that white women could get behind because they didn't seem to get behind Hillary Clinton. So
You
maybe
sure
this is a
Ah.
maybe this is a white woman they could get
But can
behind.
you
But they're
imagine
not.
Trump? It throws off the whole thing with Trump. With instead of running away, being scared of him picking on women, picking on black people,
Like, go
picking.
at him head
If
first.
you came out with two women, one white, one black, who are so tough, these two are tough.
Yeah, they are.
Like Harris is, they're tough in different ways. Like Harris
Like,
does
ain't gonna
the-
be no crying on this campaign.
Harris really is about the winning and getting the corporate money, which could cause problems with her and Warren. But Warren is really tough about, like, I'm just gonna be hardcore on all the data about the way you get ripped off by big corporations. Like,
She
be
has the
hardcore,
data,
like,
and she knows how to
I
articulate
think that would
the
be
data.
a sweet ticket.
go
And
all in.
I
You
think
know-
that
Don't
would be
try
a
to be embarrassed about how you lost the white voters who are racist kind of some days, and other days you can feel them other ways. Go all in with
I
like, your
say
future
Castro.
ticket.
I say it should be Harris Castro because at the end of the day, we still need to motivate the Latino community.
Yeah, but the Latino people
And-
are not going to vote for Latinos. They're going to vote for whoever is in their best interest, and that is always white people. Latinos don't vote for other
Latinos. White people are not in their
Latinos don't
interest.
vote for other Latinos. Norma will tell you that mess. They
Oh.
don't vote for this. They don't vote for other Latinos. Latinos will vote for other white people.
They came out for the police chief in New Haven.
But that's
No,
just
they
New
didn't.
Haven.
No,
and
they
they,
didn't.
and
Harris,
they
like,
didn't.
let
They
me get
didn't.
this. They
No,
didn't come
The
out in
reason he
Haven.
almost did not become the
Mm-mm.
police chief
No.
is because almost no one in the Hispanic
See,
community
look,
spoke up
Norma
for
said
him.
Norma's
right.
like, tag me in.
Wait a
Norma's
minute,
like,
wait a
I was
minute.
right.
Wait a minute,
Latinos are
pause.
not going to vote for Latinos.
They didn't support Riz.
Mm.
I support Riz.
You
Yeah,
ain't
other people
Latino.
I know.
supported
That's what I'm saying.
And
He's like,
a few Latino leaders did, but in general, Latino leaders did not.
No. So
I thought they
Well,
were supporting the brother.
On the national level,
love
we've
that.
never had a person to vote
candidate,
for,
yeah.
right? So
you got Marco
Eh,
Rubio.
no, Marco Rubio,
What?
you're
Ain't he
talking about
Spanish?
Marco, little
Don't
Marco.
he speak Spanish?
You talking about little
Didn't
Marco?
he run for
is
president?
that little Marco?
Is he
No,
a
but li-
Latino?
But listen, wait. So
I'm just like we don't claim him.
So
That's
I mean,
the
we
one set of.
we
is
also
not
have
that's
Bill
the
invited.
one.
Richardson.
Well, y'all need to let
To
us
the
know what
cookout.
Latinos you like,
We
because
also
we
have
don't
Bill
know.
Richardson on
Look,
the
we
scene,
just
right?
like let's go in.
We have Bill Richardson on the scene, right?
Yeah.
Against Obama
Yeah.
and everything, and the Latinos liked Obama, right? They didn't
Right.
like Bill Richardson.
Right.
So
Is
now
Bill
you,
Richardson a Latino?
Yeah,
yes,
he's Mexican.
He's Mexican.
But
Mhm.
my case is, I rest my case then.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is, you're right. They go for whoever they feel is at their best interest. Latinos usually don't vote for race or anything like that. But at the same time, if Hillary Clinton would have chose one of the Castro brothers, she would be president today.
Yeah, she would.
I don't believe
I
that.
think so. No, no.
have you
I
ever
think it
heard?
would've
Have you ever
motivated
heard
her.
a better final speech than Castro's? He
Oh,
just
I
as
know.
as a writer, I was blown away because what he did is he started with the Spanish line,
Mhm.
and he said, "This is history that I say this in a presidential debate." He went on to his story about how his grandmother came at 7 years old across the border, and now she has a son who's a congressman and running for president. And the way he came back, because you always think when you're writing, you introduce an idea and you come back to it. The way he used language at the end was, "We're going to say to Donald Trump, adios." I mean,
Mhm.
that was 45
He's like, now
seconds
that's how
of
you
TNT.
speak Spanish effectively.
Yeah. That you're right. It's close.
Also, I hope his grandmother's okay, and Donald Trump's not trying to deport her or something.
Yeah.
She's still alive.
Well,
Oh,
I'm
that
okay.
will be chalked up as a
I'm
as a
okay because I
conspiracy.
just spent.
I'm
along
surprised
with
he didn't tweet that because he's so rude.
Yeah.
I'm okay with because I just got to spend my favorite hour of the week with the best pundits in the universe, and that we even have Markeisha Ricks back.
Tequila Taco Bell.
What could be
Tequila
better
Taco Bell.
than being back in
Hola.
the house with Markeisha? Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. Thanks.
Thank
to the
you for
best,
that heartfelt welcome back since people over in here being crazy.
Tequila.
Thanks to the best pundits,
Cerveza.
the best pundits in the universe. Joe
Cerveza and
Ugly,
tequila.
Joe Ugly, who like all the men running for president didn't get to get a word in edgewise.
That's right.
I feel like the guy at the
Down
end
with
of the
the
debate stage.
patriarchy.
What's his name? That's why we don't remember.
Go get me some coffee.
I did have tongue in
ain't
cheek
lying.
about
Go
that
get me some
man thing.
coffee.
Would you like it hot or cold?
Harry Drost, Markeisha Ricks,
I'll have iced coffee, please. No,
Babs Rose Ivy, and Sam Hadelman helping us keep the dials running, and he'll be giving you his take on the radio on Tuesday, right? Great addition to our crew. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience, performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free. We're sending that out to all the people who are mired in a lot of mess in New Haven this week. Anyways, from the group CD, A Plea for Peace, this is Paul Bass inviting you to fly free with us all weekend long at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.